Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you all for coming to another Chamber University from the Miramar Pembroke Pines Regional Chamber of Commerce, Weston Florida Chamber of Commerce, the Business Partnership of Davie and Cooper City, and the Pembroke Park West Park Chamber of Commerce. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today our speaker. Miss Jane Cabrera is a life and business coach. Her simple, practical approach allows her clients to create in ways they never thought possible. Prior to becoming a coach, Jane worked in the accounting profession for over 20 years, where she specialized in change management. Jane has been a chamber member for 2 years. She currently serves as a chair of the Nexus Leads Referral Group, and she's been a presenter at the Chamber's Leadership Retreat and our Women in Business events. Jane is honored to present 3 simple ideas for trying times. Jane, you are on.
Yay, thank you for that, Robert. And I am really excited to be here. I want to thank you all for attending. There's a lot of familiar faces in the room. Some of you already are familiar with me and the kinds of things that I talk about. You know, as you know, of course, we're all in these trying times. And as a coach, it's really my goal to help people connect with their own wisdom. I do not think of myself as an expert in any particular field. And when I work with someone in coaching, the relationship in coaching is really 2 equals partnering together to come up with more creative ideas. And what I like to do and love to do with my clients is point them in the direction of their own wisdom. I believe everyone has their own wisdom and their own inner guidance. And the best ideas come from you versus coming from me. So the coaching relationship is a very collaborative relationship. I like to keep it light and fun, as you all know. And it's really an honor to be able to share these 3 simple ideas. The format that I'm going to go through this morning, the ideas that I have are so simple that, you know, at the front end, you might be like, yeah, okay. I think a lot of times the coaching business, I call it the reminder business. I'm reminding you of things that you already know. But the real power of the idea comes in the conversation, in how you take the idea, apply it, and start to look into a new direction. So the format that I want to use today is I'll start out with a presentation of the ideas, and then we'll turn it over. We'll open up the mics and we'll have some conversation. Since there's a good number of us on the line today, you can either use the virtual hand raising function to raise your hand, or you can, you know, do this in the picture, and I'll call on you one at a time. What I'd like to establish up front, and I'll review this again, I just want to establish a few guidelines for group engagement, or guidelines for discussion in the group setting. And so obviously in Zoom, I think we've all gotten used to the format of Zoom. Only one person can speak at a time, or else we can't hear anything. What I ask is that if you have a question or a thought or something that you want to share or like to get a little coaching on, I ask that you limit what you share to your own insight or your own experience. So it would not be appropriate to talk about like other people or what other people should do. That's really not going to be helpful or useful. So if you have something to say, please limit what you say to your own insight or your own experience. And a great way to do that, a great way to start that sentence would be, what came to mind for me was, and then share whatever you have to say. Whoever is the person sharing, I will respond to the person sharing, and then we'll move on to the next person. What I ask is that we refrain from giving advice or suggestions to other participants. In the world of coaching, we refer to that as no coaching without permission. So in a group setting, we have not established permission to coach each other or to give advice to each other. So I ask that we just refrain from that. And like I said, there's enough here that the topic is rich enough that I think you'll see that you can reflect on your own experience, your own insight, and that'll be the basis for a really great discussion. So with that, can I just get like a thumbs up or an agreement, or let's see what we have here. Yeah, maybe a virtual thumbs up on the reaction bar just to see everybody gets the rules. We're going to play by the ground rules. All right, that is fantastic. Thank you all. And now we are going to test my technological competence here as I attempt to screen share my PowerPoint and speak to the 3 simple ideas for trying times. Now, all 3 of these ideas, we're going to together ponder this one question. What is the nature of thought? What is the nature of thought? Because as we know, our thoughts and our mindset has a lot to do with everything. So idea number 1 is that thought flows like a river. My personal experience as a human being, I'm a human being, I've noticed I am always thinking. And my thoughts are constant and they flow like a river. Now, sometimes the river is calm and peaceful, and my thoughts are very helpful. Maybe they're directing me what to do this, do that. I can be reflective and my thinking is just calm and peaceful. Other times, my thoughts are raging. They're going super fast. It can be tumultuous. It can feel like, I'm spiraling downward. So my thoughts can have different qualities, but they're always flowing. They're always there. Something else I notice, though, is even if my thoughts are tumultuous and raging like a river, I notice that eventually that passes and they calm down. When we open to discussion, I'll be curious to hear if anyone has a similar experience with their thoughts. So I'm just going to pause to let you take that in for a second. And really, that's it. So idea number 1 is thought flows like a river. Okay. That brings me to idea number 2, which is we all experience our own thinking. The analogy I'll use, it's like we're all walking around in our own virtual reality helmet, and what we see is projected on our screen. Now, going back to the first idea to put this in perspective a little bit, I notice that when my thinking is calm and peaceful, my experience is calm and peaceful. I notice that when my thinking is the raging river, my experience is turmoil or chaos. And sometimes I can be thinking something that's not even true. It's not even real, but I can experience it like it's real. And I can be in chaos. So, for example, I'll give you a simple example. I could be sitting here in my beautiful room. I call it the green room. If you haven't noticed, my walls behind me are green. I can be sitting here in my beautiful room thinking scary thoughts about the future. And I could be experiencing a great deal of fear even though right here, I'm safe and surrounded by a beautiful room. So I'll just let you take that in for a second. And that's idea number 2. We experience our own thinking. And now that brings me to idea number 3, which I think is the most hopeful one, which is, as human beings, we can have new thought. Going back to that analogy of thought flows like a river, I can be caught up in very tumultuous thinking. And eventually that calms down and something new will occur to me. And I use this picture in my PowerPoint because the phrase we often use was, the idea popped in from out of the blue. We say it came from out of the blue. Something occurred to me. I had a new thought. I had a new idea. Something I've never thought about before, all of a sudden popped in. And a lot of times when we have that experience, we go, oh my God, why didn't I think of that before? It's obvious or it's simple, right? So what I'm pointing you to is, again, this is kind of like human resilience and human adaptability, is the fact that we can all have new thought. So those are the 3 ideas. I'll recap real quickly. Idea number 1, thought flows like a river. Idea number 2, we experience our own thinking. Idea number 3, we can have new thought. So now I'd like to open it up for some discussion and sharing. So again, just a quick review of the guidelines, 1 person at a time. Share your own insight. I will respond. And again, no advice to other participants. And with that, I will stop sharing. And all right, so what came to mind? Who would like to share something that came to mind? Irvine Foster. Unmute yourself, Irvine. There we go. Okay.
Always appreciate all your wisdom. Definitely what comes to mind is when all of this started, the pandemic started, my thoughts were racing, like, what's going to happen with my life, with my business? What's going to happen? How's it going to go? How's it going to go down? And I just wanted to see into the future, and knowing what I've learned from you, I realized that it was just a river flowing, and then I had to calm myself and realize, in time, I will see how everything pans out, and knowing that everything will be okay because everybody's going through it. Everybody's going through it. Everybody's having their own thoughts about it. But a new thought, which was, everything's going to be okay. Just take it one day at a time. One day at a time. So thank you for all that you've taught me, because otherwise I may have that river could have really flowed fast.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, thank you for that. It's a very powerful understanding. And I know for myself, some of you have heard my speech or my talk about climbing a mountain. I actually did this mountain climb, and when I got to a very steep part, I experienced exactly what you're referring to, which is that as I'm looking up, I'm thinking, if I go up, I'll never get down. And it was so scary. I went into like, you know, like a panic almost. But the question I was able, because I've learned enough from myself, I could coach myself, right? The question I asked myself is, well, are you okay right now? And I was like, yeah, I'm breathing. I'm okay. It's like, okay, I'm okay right now. Then it was, well, can you take the next step? Just the next step. Yeah, I could take it. Okay, then take it. And that's how I got through. So it's really powerful. And I just want to share one other thing to what Irvine said is, even though I teach this stuff, I still have those, you know, river rapid thoughts. It's part of the human condition. I'm not immune from that because I've learned this. I still experience it. I think we all do. It's part of the human condition. And what's been helpful for me is that by having the understanding, I can be in it and sort of at the same time go, well, I know it's going to pass, but I'm still in it. So thank you for that, Irvine. That's fantastic.
We're gonna, Whitney has a question for you or a comment.
Okay.
Hello, good morning to everybody. So one of the things that was really, I'll say like comforting was the idea about the river, because it's kind of like, you know, the understanding that the way a river flows, when you really think about it, there's these ups and downs basically. And it's the same thing with life. And also the concept that I can create a new thought that will affect my river, you know, and that means that I have control over things, and that I can determine, you know, wait a minute, do I have control over this? Because, you know, like a river is, you know, I can't control where the river winds. I can't control if it's choppy or not sometimes, you know, like that's a natural phenomenon. And that's the part of me being human. But also, I also was thinking to myself, well, you know, I could get out of that river and go into a different river. You know, if this one's too much, I can always make a decision to get up and out, you know, and those were the things that were kind of comforting to me when I was thinking about everything that you were sharing, because it's so true. Like my perception is my reality. And I had an interaction last night with somebody, and it was like two different people's perceptions of the same situation. And me on the outside, I said, you know, I think this might just be a miscommunication, because both of them were upset. And it was so interesting watching it from the outside and how much perception affects everything that we, you know, perceive that's happening in the moment, or what someone's trying to tell me. You know, one person thought that the other person was upset, and the other person was like, no, it was no big deal, you know? And so then the other person, because they thought they were upset, then they were like, okay, well now I'm going to do this. And so then before you know it, now they're both upset because they're both acting off of assumptions. So it was really interesting to watch that happen. And I was also grateful that I didn't have to get in the middle of it. You know, I was able to step back and not let my world get all flustered and, you know, crazy because of these two individuals that I both care about, you know. So it was interesting, and I was reflecting on that whenever you were talking.
You know, that is really powerful. And I think one of the really great things about having that insight that we're all kind of in our virtual reality helmet, when you realize that, and in a case like what you just said, where somebody was upset, rather than like, and I know it's kind of human nature to be judgmental, like, oh, you know, like, oh, there they go again, or that type of thing, right? But if you can step back and say, well, wait a minute, like from a really genuine place, I wonder what's playing in their helmet. Because the thing is, we never really know. Like we think we know, you know, we think we know another person, or I know them so well, I know what they're thinking. You know what? You don't. You really don't know what another person is thinking. You cannot. It's impossible. And other people cannot know what you're thinking. You know, it's impossible. And so like we make a lot of assumptions. I use the example of my green walls, my green room. I love my green walls. I love my green room. I find that color very warm and inviting. You may hate green. And the fact that this is behind me, it might be distracting you. It might be agitating to you. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so warm and inviting. Somebody else might be agitated. You never know. You don't know what's going on in someone's helmet. And a great tool, especially when you get in that space of miscommunication, a really great tool is have the presence to just ask, well, what are you thinking? Where are you coming from? And it's best, and I know this is hard, believe me, I'm not actually saying I can do it. I'm not saying I do it all the time, but if you can, it's really powerful, is if you can like really come from genuine curiosity, like just genuine curiosity, like I really wonder what's going on. That's a really great place to open up communication in a completely different way. So thank you. Thank you for those comments, Whitney.
Next up, we have Jose.
All right.
You're on, Jose.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. First, thank you, Jane, for this presentation, the Nature of Thoughts. And a lot of things amaze me. One of them is that we humans, we all have thoughts and we all think different than anyone else. Or some of us have commonality. For example, in this time of coronavirus, you see how people pull out humor, like, for example, putting a mask to a six pack of beers, or they put a mask on a pet and it looks funny. So we all think different. But this is what happened to me. I'm always thinking the impossible. And I don't know why is that. For example, walking on Mars or working in space, doing research. That type of thinking is what comes to me. And sometimes in terms of creativity, not that many times. But as you were saying that we have a river of thoughts, and then we have the new thinking, the new thoughts that comes to our mind. A lot of my thoughts have already passed through my mind, or I don't even remember when I started thinking about that. But my question is, why I'm always thinking the impossible? Can you elaborate on that?
I don't know why you're thinking the impossible. I don't know what. Let me ask you this question. I mean, I don't know why you think what you think, but let me ask you this question. When you think of the impossible, how do you feel?
Well, for my personal inner me, I'm thinking, wow, if I'm thinking, it is possible. But then I come back to the real world and I say, it will take this, it will take this, I will need this, and it will be a work of a lot of people involved. And I think about change, like how can you make a change of people, like a change of reaction, like one person doing one thing, another one, or like through generations to accomplish something. I get a little bit of the solutions, but at the same time, I get disappointed when I say, oh, I won't be in existence anymore. Those type of thoughts, it comes to me very, very often.
Yeah, and I mean, because when I ask how you feel, like when you start thinking of the impossible, if that thought has you feel, kind of inspired or creative, if it's a positive experience, I would say that thought is, like the why you think that way is that's your creative creative energy. So like when I say we all have the capacity for new thought, that thinking of the impossible, that you're kind of reaching for that thing that we've never thought of before. That is kind of the epitome of creativity. You know, it's sort of that going into the unknown. And so if you're feeling like engaged, inspired, excited, that's fantastic. That's creativity. Now, if it's coming from, and this is kind of the distinction, if you're coming from a place of fear, if it's like I'm thinking of these things to escape a fearful future, the base thought is fear. The base thought is, you know, things are not going to be okay, or it's not safe, or, you know, the universe is not friendly, those kind of in a general sense. So my question, like, as you're going into that thought, is it provoking feelings of anxiety, or is it provoking more feelings of interest, you know, interest, curiosity, engagement? So the gauge is how you're feeling. So just check in with that, and then as a real simple rule of thumb, if it feels anxiety provoking, notice it, and then do what Whitney said: jump in the other river.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Jose, does that help?
Absolutely. No, you really touched the very seat. Like now I get to have this distinction. And if what I'm thinking, what is the base? Is it based on fear, interest, curiosity, engagement, maybe creativity? You know, you nail it. Thank you, Jane. Awesome.
You are very welcome. You are
You're
very.
so good.
Did I see VJ wanted to go next?
Okay.
Robert, was that kind of what you had as well?
Yeah, I have VJ, then Clinton Hugh, all in line.
Perfect.
VJ, you're on.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this meeting, Jane. Well, I'm the opposite of Jose. You think the impossible. I think the possible, because I think anything is possible. And that thought flow like a river. Yeah, that's so true, that it does flow like a river, but you have to capture that thought and act upon it. Guess what? Because if you don't, it's going to flow away and you might never get it back again. We experience our own thinking. I experience my thinking in the middle of the night when I get up to go to the bathroom. I come back and I can't sleep, and that's my best thing. My mind is so calm. Oh man, there's so many ideas, but it's so late in the night. I'm so tired, working all day. It's 2, 3 in the morning. It's hard to get up and jot things down. I try to remember as much as I can. If I can, I pick up my phone and make little notes and then go back to sleep. Because the next day when I get up, I'm gonna forget everything.
Yeah.
But my mind is so calm. Then I think about work. Sometimes I think about work so much, I don't sleep for an hour or so. And then I go back to sleep. And we can have new thoughts. We have no choice these days but to have new thoughts because of the coronavirus, the Zoom thing we're doing online, everybody working from home. That's new thoughts right there. Who would ever think that, we have to do this every day for such a long time? So the new thoughts come in automatically. You don't have to think about it. Like I said, we have no choice. When the new thought come in, you have to adapt and go with the flow and do the best you can to get things done. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I want to just add one thing to what you said about like that fear, like if you don't act on it right away, you're going to lose it. My experience is more like, because that's kind of an anxiety provoking thought right there. Like if I don't act on it, I'm going to lose it. It's going to be gone forever. My experience is the best ideas are the ones that it's just the next logical step. So it's not a struggle. It's not a big struggle. It's not like, oh, this big effort I have to put in, or else it flows easily. So again, it's that kind of that calm river. It's something like it occurs to you, and then and then it's just the next logical step. So you can have the thought and then it's done. Everything doesn't have to be a big deal. So, the idea even of hard work and stress and struggle, those are just thoughts. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what came to mind for me. So thank you, VJ. Next, Robert, was Clint.
Yes, Clint.
Clint Conliffe. Hey, Clint.
Hello, fellow students. Good morning to everyone. First, I'd like to start off by, I like your lime green in the back, so keep it. I was gonna comment on some other things, but then I gotta follow the rules. I can't comment on nobody else. So,
that's right.
I just like to say, I like what you said about when you're climbing up the mountain and you think about future anxiety, and then you say to yourself, am I okay now? And that's a lot of people. I said, worry about that tomorrow when tomorrow comes, and it may be trouble tomorrow, or it may not be anything tomorrow. So I like what you said, and can you take the next step? And then when you talked about number 2, we are experiencing our own thinking. That's reminds me what my father used to tell me all about before, self-fulfilling prophecies. If you think something's going to happen bad, most likely something's going to happen bad. So those are my comments.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Clint. And it's interesting. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about our favorite topic, which is Toastmasters. And one of the reasons I joined Toastmasters was I wanted to improve my skills in delivering prepared speeches, being able to give a prepared workshop, a prepared speech. Toastmasters helped me enormously with giving prepared speeches. But one of the biggest things I learned in Toastmasters was, as best we prepare, we have an agenda, we have a plan for the day, 80% of the time, it does not go as planned. Something happens. Either someone doesn't show up, there's some change, our venue isn't available, there's something happens 80% of the time. And in the moment, we all adapt and move forward. And so that thing about worry about it tomorrow or worry about it when the time comes, one of the things I really learned is that when that moment comes, everything I need to handle it is already right there. I don't have to think everything through into the future. As much as I did all that work on preparing my prepared speech, when something went wrong or when the schedule got changed and I had to cut 15 minutes out of it, I was able to do that in the moment. And learning that really kind of helped me relax to say, I don't have to think everything through in advance. I can be just right here, right now, and I can adapt, and it'll work out. Has every speech been great? No. But was it good enough? Yeah. So thank you, Clint, for pointing that out. That I have also found that really helpful. Tony Moore. Oh, can't hear you. Oh, wait, Tony, you're still on mute.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Good morning, everyone, and especially to you, Jane.
Thank you. Good morning.
I just wanted to comment on that first point that you made, first idea, thoughts flow like a river. I remember I was in Hawaii, this beautiful, serene setting, and yet my mind was raging like the river that you spoke about. And no matter how hard I tried, I could not get myself to calm down. Eventually I did, but it was in that moment when I decided just to let go. Just let go of those thoughts and not be distracted by the beauty of the place rather than, what's in my head. So I was also experiencing my own reality because I wasn't enjoying the place that I was in. And what I realized, and you and I have had conversations, sometimes when you're in that raging river, you need something to interrupt that state of mind, either someone or something to snap you out of it so that you get back to a much calmer place, and then you can sort of figure out what to do or what not to do, because sometimes that's all it is. It's not what, you don't have to always be doing something. And that's one of my predispositions. I want to always be doing something. And so relaxing, really relaxing and not doing anything is very difficult for me. So it's a constant battle that I have to keep reminding myself of, is you don't always have to be in motion. Sometimes staying still is the best thing that you can do. At least.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you for that. It froze up for just a second, Tony. Did you have something else? Oh, you're back on mute. I just want to say something to what you shared there, which was, well, that thing about like when you're in that tumultuous state and you said like you need something or someone to interrupt that state. Sometimes that's helpful. And in the absence of something to interrupt it, eventually it'll pass anyway. Right? So like we think we need to get out of that state. And I get it's uncomfortable. But if you don't interrupt it, eventually it'll pass anyway. Because you can't stay in that state forever. I mean, did you notice, like, even if you get in that state, did you ever notice you can't stay there for that long? Eventually you kind of wear yourself out and it passes. And so that's kind of the cool thing. What's been helpful again for me with this understanding is by understanding it, understanding the nature of it as a river, by having the awareness of it, sometimes you can have the presence to choose. Sometimes you can. And then sometimes you don't. And both are okay. Both are okay.
Next up is we have a question from Silvana.
Excellent.
Good morning, Jane. Thank you for all of this. My question has to do a little bit, how do you reconcile this? And the information is awesome, I love it. How do I reconcile it with feelings then? Because an emotion, because sometimes the thoughts are in the right place, the river is calm, everything is good, and I have all my plans and my next steps and everything that I want to do, but my emotion is not there. And I can be thinking all the right things and never take the right action. Those two things kind of overlap. And I'll give you a couple of examples, practical examples of what I mean. So for example, exercising, or, maybe I have something in my business that I need to do, but I'm like, I'll do it later, or it's not that important, but I know my thought is, I know I have to do it. I want to do it, or I want to exercise. I want to go out. I want to eat the salad versus the pizza and things like that. But my emotion is not there to help me follow through with that. Make sense?
It does.
That's one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other, a little bit in the token of what you were saying, to just let it ride out. Something that happened yesterday. It's so funny that we're talking about all of this. I had something in my life happen like a week ago, and yesterday somebody did something that I thought was intrusive, and so my mind went, I'm gonna tell him this and tell him that, and I was aware of it, and I stopped myself, but it kept coming back and kept coming back. And so I said, okay, you know what, let me play out the conversation. And so I just went until I kind of wrote it out. And then I just, I look at it as the bigger picture, and, in the long term, this is, a more than important relationship for me. And so I just calm myself down. But the emotion sometimes takes over in those two situations. And even though my thoughts and my river is clear and I know, what I'm thinking, just emotion, how do you reconcile
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. So emotion follows thought.
Okay.
And when you're describing this kind of disconnect, I'm thinking this, my thinking is straight, but my emotions are all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That is your very intelligent mind playing tricks on itself.
Okay.
Because we can all force ourselves to think the positive thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is like people say, oh, affirmations. Yourself to think the positive thought, or to think the thought you think you're supposed to have. But in reality, somewhere back there, thinking something else. And we experience that as resistance. So that's the reconciliation. If you were working with me, and let's say the thing was exercise, and that you should exercise, but you're not exercising. The question I would ask you is, maybe your wisdom is telling you not to exercise. So let's explore all the reasons why it's not a good idea for you to exercise. Okay. That would be a new thought. If you're not exercising, maybe you're not supposed to be. Let's just go there. Let's play with that. Let's see why. Okay. So now we're going to send your brain that's sitting there fighting, I need to exercise, I should this, I should. And you're kind of stuck in this little battle, right? And like in your mind, you're experiencing it as a battle between thought and emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's not fight it. Let's accept it as you shouldn't exercise. Let's go there.
Okay.
It's a completely different way of thinking. And what that discussion is, it's an exploration. Where it goes, I don't know. We'd actually have to sit and have that conversation and then see where it goes.
Okay.
What I am telling you, my experience is, it always goes to a really interesting place, and you get a new insight. You see something you weren't seeing before. And a lot of times, what you see allows that sort of battle of the wills, it allows it to dissipate. But I can't tell you, I can't sit here and tell you, oh, this is what's going to make it happen. It's an exploration. It's a path we go down together.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. That's a really good question. Really good question.
Up next is Anita.
Hooray, Anita.
Thank you. I've been listening to everyone's comments, and I've been reading over and over these ideas for trying times. And from my perspective, looking back over my life, when my thoughts flow like a river, and sometimes I still have to pull back, it's when I feel I have to control a situation or control something. And I had a high pressure job years ago, and I don't recall ever having that calm river. My thoughts were flowing all the time. And I found that because of my controlling nature back then, I would, if I knew I was meeting with someone and it was going to be a difficult meeting, I would pick a fight before the meeting even started. I would say in my head, I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this. And I would have this full-blown fight in my head before I even got to the meeting. And then when I got to the meeting, even if it turned out differently, because of my previous thoughts, I really didn't listen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because my thoughts were so controlled that this was going to be bad, yada, yada, yada. So what I had to start doing is, and it took a long time and I still revert back, is when my thoughts start going crazy, like I'm trying to prepare for something that I'm anticipating. It's okay to prepare, but not to get it, what do I want to say, be overwhelmed by it. Like if I know I'm going to have a meeting and there are 3 points that I need to get out, that's it. Don't try to anticipate what that person's going to say and what my response is going to be, because if I do that, I'm not really listening and not benefiting from from what the other person has to say. So I think as a result of my recognizing that in myself, when I'm a calmer river, I'm more prone to listen and receive, even when I don't necessarily like what I'm hearing. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mine was all about control. That rushing river, it caused my thoughts to just go all the time because I had to control everything. I had to control the situation. So now I'm not. I battle that still a little bit, but I'm not nearly as bad as I used to be.
It's, I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's such a common experience. And I think, especially in the personal growth world, excuse me, in the personal growth world, we've kind of come up with all this talk about manifestation and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of fooled ourselves into thinking that we have a lot more control than we really do.
You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things about that, the thing about the river, the analogy of the river,
mm-hmm.
picture yourself standing in a river
mm-hmm.
and trying to hold it back with your two little hands.
Mm-hmm.
You are not controlling the river.
No, not at all. And I think it's all about ego. It's
yeah.
Ego. Yeah, that's that's what it is.
Yeah. It is.
Mm-hmm.
And see what's really powerful about this understanding is I don't get control of my thoughts. I really don't even get control of my ego.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of notice that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the noticing, I have those moments of presence where I have the ability to act on it. But I'm not getting control of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I said, full disclosure, even though I teach this stuff, I can go down the rabbit hole big time. And I do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some of you know that.
But the fact that you stop yourself is, and that's what I have to do when I find myself doing that, stop it.
Yeah.
Recognizing and stopping it is the key.
Yes. And, Anita, what I also love about what you shared is that this understanding came to you naturally through your life's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're talking about it now, it raises your consciousness of it to a higher level,
mm-hmm.
raises your awareness to a higher level. But notice that just by living your human experience, you already kind of came to this understanding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing. Yeah. I see
Whitney with her hand up
has a
again.
virtual hand raised.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whitney, you're on.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
You are.
Oh, okay, cool. So I was thinking just now, whenever you guys were sharing about momentum, because like you were saying, like you can't stop the river. And I always think of like a freight train, like if the freight train's just starting to roll and, you know, you can kind of stand in front of it and like stop it. Like if it's not even barely moving, you could do something to stop it. But if that thing's barreling downhill, you know, and you stand in front of it, you're going to get crushed. So
Right.
it's like, sometimes for me, it's like I said, like ride the wave, you know, like you gotta, it's like the acceptance to understand you are not going to stop this freight train of a thought right now. You're on it, ride it, and maybe just go take a nap. Like, you know, step away, you know, go do something else, you know, sometimes, or like run, you know, like I'll go like do some kind of exertion to help myself, like get out of whatever space I'm in, or not even try to get out of it. You know, it's almost like that acceptance. I'm here. It is what it is. Now let's just try to minimize the damage I'm going to do for the rest of the day. You know, like I remember there's so many times where I'll be like at work and I'm like, ooh, I can feel I am in a bad space right now. And I just kind of lock myself in my office and then I focus on a piece of work that I enjoy. And so then I just do that work and then I take like a temperature later on in the day, like, okay, am I acceptable to leave the office right now? Can I walk the halls
Yeah.
and not be a total jerk, you know? And so sometimes that helps me, but that's what I was thinking when you guys were talking about, like that momentum sometimes is just there and you can't stop it. You want to, but it, like you said, it's just life. It's the nature of the river. It just is what it is. I think that's kind of like what Tony was talking about, like having this beautiful place and then not being able to stop the train. You know, it's like the
Yeah.
freight train's there and it'll end eventually. It can't drive forever, you know, but that's hard sometimes for me to accept. You know, it's like you were saying, it's that control thing, the ego thing, that I want to be able to control it and I want to be able to have the right perfect thought at the right time and be able to go and do XYZ and then that's going to fix this, you know, like that's just not life. And it's perfectionism at its finest. And, you know, it's just one of those things that I think a lot of us probably struggle with because, you know, I don't know, I think it's human nature.
Absolutely. One of the, every time I present these ideas, I throw in a little different twist on it. And I think the last time I did it, I showed a happy face and like a grumpy face. And it's kind of to the point you're making, which is we all get reactive from time to time. We, you know, like you said, sometimes the momentum is it is so strong that as much as you might want to stop it, you can't. And that's, again, it's just kind of part of being human, which especially like now we're in these trying times, everybody is challenged in their own way. Like people are going through this in very different ways. You know, you have some people that are on the front lines and they're having to constantly go and they're exhausted. You have some people that are sitting it out in their homes and they're like maybe bored out of their minds, or they're just, you know, there's some other kind of frustration going on. So everybody's in a situation where their experience is completely different. But in that, it can build up and we all get reactive from time to time. And that was, you know, my point with that is kind of like, so what? Like, let's chalk it up to the human experience, take a deep breath. We can kind of give ourselves a break. Okay, you know, I lost it for a minute. Now I'm back. And it's kind of like give ourselves a break if that happens to us. We don't have to beat ourselves up. And if we're able to kind of give ourselves a break, we're a lot more compassionate with other people. We can give other people a break. It's like, okay, somebody was in the pressure cooker. They kind of blew. Give them a break. We, you know, take a step back, take a deep breath. We're all human. We can all kind of come back to, we all have the ability, eventually we all come back to that calm river state, because that's our natural state. We all will come back to that eventually. So
Next is Constance.
Connie.
Hi. Okay, I can so relate to what you just said, because yesterday I was reactive in a way that is not me, but I just went off on this guy because it's like I didn't think the company was treating me fairly. And I'm screaming, and I'm not a screamer really, but it did calm down. And I did apologize to him for acting like a bitch. But and then what happened is I spent the rest of the afternoon beating myself up for acting in a way that I don't see myself. And then I thought, you know what? Have a new thought. It's okay. I'm human and I have a right to stand up for myself. So that led me to a new thought. And I'm like, I'm over it.
You know, and I'm gonna do what I love to do, which is just take it one step further in a different direction, just to
Right.
stir things up a little bit. Did you end up accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish?
Yes.
Okay, and here's what I want to say. Maybe it took you yelling. Like maybe that's what was needed.
Yes.
And rather than getting too caught up in I'm not the type of person who yells,
Right.
maybe the guy you were dealing with needed to be yelled at.
Oh, definitely.
Mission accomplished. All good.
Right, but see, I didn't see it at that time as a mission that I wanted to accomplish.
Right.
You know, but yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
See, because if you were in the Marines, the question would be, did you get the job done? Yes, that's it.
Got it.
We don't need to look back, but that's awesome. I appreciate you bringing in, I really appreciate you bringing that up. And to me, that's one of those new thoughts.
Yes, it's definitely a new thought.
Okay. Robert, do we have anyone else out there? Because we're getting kind of close to time. I know we started a little later, so I thought we could go till maybe, you know,
Yeah,
maybe.
I have no one else in the queue right now. If somebody would like to, you can either raise your hand electronically or put a note in the chat, and we can definitely get to you. I think Olga, I seeing you motion?
Yes, Olga.
Okay.
Yes, and so we can go to like 10 after, because I know we got started a little late. Okay, Olga, go ahead.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jane. Oh my God, this is a very, very beautiful presentation. In my personal, I got to control difficult situation. It's just using a simple word, you know, always in my mind. When somebody tried to do that I can be reactive. Just thinking. It's just peace, but of pleasure all the time. You know, and try to be more proactive instead to be reactive. So before I was a different person, just always, you know, reactive, very, you know, and then that's what I try to say, okay, wait a minute, this is not good. Because in that moment, that can create very bad consequences. That's why I always say, okay, wait a minute. I just think about it, I just peace, what a pleasure. So this is not the moment, I just wait maybe for minutes, maybe for 1 hour, or maybe another day, and this completely different, the situation. So that's what I really work for me, you know, and just in that moment, okay, Olga, peace, what a pleasure. That's it.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. When you were saying that, what came to mind was, you know, I did this mountain hike that I referenced earlier, and when I was on the way down the mountain, by that time, this was like a 14-mile hike or something, and I was absolutely exhausted. And, you know, remember when I went back to the question, like, am I okay right now? Can I take the next step? There was a point where the terrain was kind of rocky. And what I noticed, what I did in that moment was I physically just stopped and I looked and I would think before I stepped. And so this particular area, it took me a really long time to get through it. And the people that were with me were like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. I just need to think before I step. And it's such a powerful tool to know, to be able to do that. It's like you found this way to not be so reactive, but to just put a put a second in there for yourself. Just give yourself that moment, think before you step. It can make a huge difference. So thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful example.
Thank you.
And do we have anyone else?
I'm not seeing anyone else asking any questions or motioning for me.
I see a Tony Moore waving.
Oh, Tony. Tony, you're on. Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. You know, I'm thinking, I was rafting down a Colorado River a few years ago. Of course, I had a guide. We had a guide. And we were heading to this rock. And it looks like we were going to be crashing into that rock until he instructed us exactly what to do. And we just kind of just turned. And sometimes it's always good. I believe in coaching because sometimes you need somebody looking from the outside in to see what's happening. Because sometimes when you're in that rage and you're fighting through whatever you're fighting through, your mind is all muddled and you can't think clearly and you can't see clearly. And no matter, and it's just a human condition and we have to accept it. Sometimes time will allow you for you to go back to that calm space, but sometimes you need intervention. and there have been a couple of times in my life where I've needed someone to step in and say, okay, just let it go, you know, accept it and be mindful of it. But just having that person there that can, you know, help to make you notice some of the signs, I think it's a good thing. And we all need that in our lives. At least I do.
Thank you for that, Tony. Okay, do we have anyone else? All right, well, hearing none, I want to thank you all for your participation today. As I said, these ideas really become more powerful in the conversation. I am here for you if any of you would like to take these concepts a little bit further. Please reach out to me. I would be happy to schedule a conversation with you. You can reach me at jane@janecabrera.com. And I can go ahead and throw that in the chat box, but most of you are with the chamber, so you know how to find me.
All right. Jane, I want to thank you so very much for doing this Chamber University today. Again, if you need information about Jane Cabrera coaching, you can definitely check out the Chamber website. We'll be more than happy to give that information out to you. Jane, you are phenomenal as always. We are so happy to have you, not only as a member, but coming out and helping to teach our members new thoughts, new insights to help them be better, not only business people, but people in general. And so I want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Chamber of Commerce for your time today.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jane.